Face the State.
Good morning and thank you for joining us on Face the State. I'm Jill Valley, and for the next half hour we are going to be learning about a new initiative at the University of Montana called Tech Skills for Tomorrow. It's going to offer the opportunity for students to learn and master the kinds of technological skills that the workplace is demanding these days. It's where the jobs are, it's where the future awaits. And joining me today is University of Montana President Seth Bodner and Michael Punk, who's the Vice President of Public Policy for Amazon Web Services. He is also a teacher at the University of Montana from time to time and wrote the book The Revenant, that you may have read before, and that was actually made into a movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio. So we have a good panel here, very smart men, and we're going to talk more about the tech skills for tomorrow and how it could shape what we call the talent landscape in Montana. Now, we know there are tech jobs out there. We're always talking about it. Is this an initiative that the university is launching to help create more people who are able to take these jobs and kind of build our economy that way?
Well, you know, the Tech Skills for Tomorrow initiative is really about, it's an embodiment of our partnership with technology companies and employers across the state to make sure that our students are coming out with the skills that they need to succeed today and adapt over the course of their entire careers. You know, we have great programs across the disciplines at the University of Montana. We have great programs in the field of technology, whether that's computer science. We have a fantastic computer science program. Data science, we have fantastic programs in data science, programs at the 2-year level, the 4-year level, the graduate level. But what we know is we can prepare students well for what we know today. But we believe firmly that we have to partner with companies like Amazon Web Services to make sure that we're continually adapting our students to meet the demands and the needs of employers today. So that's one of the things we're really excited about, is the partnership with Michael and the team at AWS to really adapt our curriculum to give students the skills they need to succeed.
And what's Amazon's role in this and your position on this initiative?
Well, we are very lucky because we have a chance to see the types of jobs that are out there in the real world market. And we get to see a very broad landscape. And one of the places where we see the most opportunity is in the area of the cloud. And a lot of people hear about the cloud but don't really know what it is. And it's interesting because where the cloud came from is in the early 90s when Jeff Bezos was creating an online bookstore. He had the need to store and process large amounts of data via connections to the internet. And he needed to do that in a very secure environment where people would feel comfortable putting their credit cards online. And the machine to do that didn't really exist at the time, and so some smart people at Amazon came up with what is essentially the cloud internet system. And in about 2006, some people in the company thought that might be of interest to sell as a service to other companies. And so today, although we don't see it, there's this incredible revolution in technology that in many ways is as significant as the personal computer or the cell phone, and it's cloud internet. And every time we use our phone to do banking or to send somebody a photo or watch a Netflix movie, although we don't know it, we're using the cloud. And as big as the cloud is today, and this is something we talked to Seth about starting last December, as big as the cloud is today, only about 18% of the world's data is currently on the cloud. And what we know is that over the next few years, dramatically more of the world's data will be on the cloud. That's the good news. The bad news is we don't have enough people, and our customers don't have enough people to handle all of the jobs that go along with that move to the cloud, which is why we're talking to Seth.
What kind of jobs are they? Because I know we always talk that they're out there, but what specifically are you talking about? Sitting at a laptop and doing programming? Are you actually splicing cable together, or figuring out the language of the internet? Like what kinds of jobs will the initiative help train people to do?
Well, all of the above.
Okay.
And one of the exciting things about it is there's lots of different types of jobs. And one of the things that we talk about when we talk to places like the University of Montana or Missoula College is what are your students interested in? Here's what we're interested in, and where's the overlap? So some of the jobs might be working for a company like Amazon Web Services directly. Some of the jobs would be working for our customers, hospitals or universities or startups or large companies who are moving their data onto the cloud and need people working for them who have those skills. Some of the jobs are building the infrastructure, the fiber optic cable that connects the people to the internet, 5G, rural broadband. In all of those areas, there are needs for many people with different skills, and those are the types of things where we're partnering with the university.
And it's a holistic approach. I mean, I think when we think about this initiative called Tech Skills for Tomorrow, we use this little reminder to ourselves called the 4 Ps, because we know we need a pipeline of talent to fuel Montana's economic growth. We know that tech companies here face a challenge in growing. A lot of companies here face a challenge in workforce. We know that this state faces the demographic challenge. So we know that as the flagship university in this state, we have an obligation to work to develop a pipeline of talented workers. And that means that we have to have the right programs in place. And those are programs at the 2-year level at Missoula College in our IT certificates, the cloud computing certificate that we've developed jointly with AWS, but also at the 4-year level in things like computer science, as I mentioned, in data science, which is a huge and growing field, in management information sciences at our College of Business, which is the #2 program in the entire western part of this country in management information science. So terrific programs, and at the graduate level, our Master of Science in Business Analytics. So we have to get those programs right, but we have to develop partnerships with employers to make sure that those programs are adapting to meet the needs that they see today. So we're adapting our 2-year curriculum. We're adapting our computer science curriculum we have a proposal being considered right now for track in software engineering within our computer science program. Within our media arts program, we have a proposal in the works for interactive media and game design. So we're adapting those programs. And then the final one is pathways, because students today, they're going to access education in different ways. It's not just the student coming out of high school that needs to think about education. The simple fact is 1/3 of the current workforce today is going to have to reskill or upskill at some point in their career. That means mid-career adults having to come back, right? That means people maybe in a second career after retiring from a job are going to want to come back and access the education system in a different way. So we have to develop different pathways. And that can mean even things like an event we had a few weeks ago in conjunction with AWS and Sumitomo, a company that works on the fiber optic cable. We had this event to train people on a device called the Fusion Splicer, which is a device that helps you cut fiber optic cable in the most efficient, safe, cost-effective way. We trained 31 people in that skill.
In 2 days.
Yeah. And we had employers from around the state, actually, when they heard about that, calling up and asking, hey, can we have contact info from those people? So it does take a holistic approach, and key to that is the partnership that we develop.
Well, and that the program that you're talking about with Missoula College and the Fusion Splicer, I think, is a really great live example of where we had 31 students come in. One of our partners is Sumitomo Electric, who has this incredible machine called a Fusion Splicer. I like saying that just because it makes me feel smart.
Right?
It's a great name.
Yeah. But what a Fusion Splicer is basically the way that in modern technology, this high technology fiber optic cable is joined. And in the old days, somebody like me could take a pair of pliers and strip the insulation off copper wire and wind it together and put some duct tape around it. You'd have a splice. It probably won't surprise you that it doesn't work that way with fiber optic cable. It's actually this incredibly high-tech machine that's required to do that, and yet it's necessary every time a new building is being connected to the internet. And what we see happening all over the place is if we don't have the trained technicians who know how to use that equipment, very expensive cable is ruined. And so that's a place, one example of a place where we see a huge demand. And it was really fun to see these students come in and in a very short period of time gain a skill which they can immediately put to use to get a job.
So it doesn't have to be a 4-year thing. You can do there's the certificates, and there must have been a hunger for this. Did you have a lot of inquiries as people were going to enroll at the school, or hey, what do you have to offer? Because I know this is where I want to go and this is what I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see, Missoula and Montana more broadly has a thriving tech sector. But I would tell you, and as Michael would attest, we talk about things like cloud computing. That touches every sector, right? If you want to work at a hospital and you want to run a hospital well, you have to have people who understand cloud computing and have those skills. You want to run any company today, you need to have those skills. I think what is hard sometimes is I think people see this thing called the tech sector, and it feels inaccessible. And the reality is there are a myriad of ways through which people right here at the University of Montana and Missoula College can get access to training to get them good paying local technology jobs.
And these are jobs that you could do here but even work remotely, like for a company in another state, because you've got this. Okay, no, that is it. I think a lot of people would like to explore these careers, but when you don't know much about them, it's kind of hard to know where to even start. So how long has the university been looking at this initiative and working on it?
Well, it's really something we've been talking about, or I've been talking about since I joined the university a little over a year and a half ago, to saying how do we best meet the needs of the state of Montana. That's our job. I like to say the University of Montana is really the human capital development engine for our state's economy. And so that means we have to adapt our programs. We have to have the right programs in place to prepare people for the jobs of today and the jobs of tomorrow. 60% of elementary school age children, by many estimates, almost 2/3 of students who are my kids' age today, 60% of them are going to be in jobs that don't yet exist. If you believe some of the studies that are out there. So that's why at the university, we're taking an approach to say, look, we need to prepare students, yes, to adapt, to think, to create. We like to say we don't know what tomorrow will bring, but our job is to make our students tomorrow proof. And that means giving them skills to adapt and giving them different types of training to prepare them for the jobs they need and frankly that the economy needs.
If I can piggyback on that a little bit, I think the point that Seth makes about how workers today are going to have to be more nimble than ever in order to continue to be a part of the change in the economy that we see across the horizon. What's also important is that we have institutions that are nimble. And we have an opportunity as AWS to work with lots of different educational institutions, not just around the country, but around the world. And one of the things that I think was exciting to us when we came to the University of Montana, last December, is how excited the University of Montana was to talk to us. And finding educational institutions with that type of flexibility and nimbleness themselves, and willing in a very short amount of time to develop new programs for training students is incredibly exciting to us. And without those types of partners, we know that we won't be able to have the skilled workers that we need to run our business.
Yeah, I imagine Amazon needs quite a few
lot.
skilled workers out there. So you also work a lot with obviously other businesses because you need to provide what they need. And I know you also work with the Montana Department of Labor and Industry, a program called Become an Alum.
Yeah, that's right. That's again back to this point of being the human capital development engine for this state. Montana faces a demographic challenge. Over the course of the next decade, we're going to have well over right around 120,000 or so people that are in a retirement age, only about 90,000 that come into the workforce. So right there we face a challenge, and the vast majority of jobs out there require some degree of education beyond high school. And as we started looking at this about a year ago, I was speaking with our commissioner of the Department of Labor and Industry, Galen Hollenbaugh, former student body president at the University of Montana. And we said, well, there's this population of about 110,000, 115,000 Montanans who have some college, but didn't get that degree. And so we said, let's see what we can do to try to get at that population, give them the opportunity to get skills, to get higher paying jobs, to move up. And we created this program called Become an Alum. And the Department of Labor and Industry was key for us in this effort because they can see the jobs that are out there. They can see the skills that are needed. We can see the students and the people who maybe were at didn't finish over the past few years. And we've said, how do we, match the real need for workers and the real desire on the behalf of workers to get relevant education to get them into jobs. And so we've partnered and we took a circle around the city of Missoula within a few hours and said, let's look at people who've left the university within the last 5-6 years and see how many of those we can get back into school. And I think we'll have about 10% of that number, which is chipping away at it, but it's providing opportunity for people to access education, continue to learn, and it's providing very skilled workers to continue to grow our economy. So we're really excited, and we're just getting started in this program.
So it's like a second chance, like, oh, I majored in this, but I don't really like it. I want to do something else. What do I do? And it sounds like this is a good jumping off place to be able to do something more interesting.
One of the things that I think is really important that Seth also mentioned is there's a lot of doors into these opportunities. And I'm a big believer that the more education you can get, the better. But it's not the case that you have to have a 4-year degree to have a exciting job, a well-paying job in the technology sector. If you have a 4-year degree, I think you're going to be able to find an exciting job in the tech sector. But it's really interesting to me how much the community college 2-year degrees are offering a real sweet spot as well. And I think there's a lot of jobs that we see in the technology field that require more than a high school education, but don't require a 4-year degree.
Right.
And community institutions like Missoula College, I think, are filling a really important gap in our community and our state, and providing that level of training that for many people is leading the way to really exciting opportunities.
Is this a good opportunity for to reach into the high schools where the kids are thinking about their future, or maybe recruit them, offering up this opportunity?
Absolutely. And we want to be able to say to every high school student, there is a pathway for you at the University of Montana. That may be in a 4-year degree. That may be majoring in computer science. That may be in data science. That may be majoring in business or forestry and conservation. That there's a whole host of opportunities to set you up for success in life at the 4-year level, but also at the 2-year level. As Michael said, there are terrific pathways in the technology field, but also in the trades. The point is, I think what I say to students when I go and visit the high schools, as I do quite a bit of here in Montana, and I say, look, obviously I want y'all to come to the University of Montana, but what I encourage them to do is recognize that education will be key to their success, and also education does not stop once you walk across that stage with a degree, with a diploma in hand. The fact is, our job, as we say, is to get you ready for your first job out of school, but also to prepare you to succeed in your 5th, your 6th, your 7th job. In fact, I'd love having Michael on this show with me. I mean, you mentioned some of the things he does, but you have right here a historian.
Yeah.
Who wrote a fantastic book about the mining disaster in Butte 100 years ago. You have here an incredibly creative author. Right? You also have here a U.S. ambassador to the World Trade Organization.
Yeah, I was
and
reading
now
that.
a vice president at a technology company. You can't. So what do you major in if you want his career? The fact is, you major in something that teaches you to think creatively, to communicate effectively, to solve problems, to innovate. And those are all the things we do for students at the University of Montana. That's what we mean when we say making yourself tomorrow-proof. It's making yourself like Michael. But what I think he would attest to is that continual learning over the course of his entire career is what has made him successful, and what I firmly believe will make students of today and workers and citizens of tomorrow successful.
What other, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, what other business partners have you reached out to? Because it sounds like this is, it's important to touch base with the technology companies in Missoula, in the region, and have a conversation like, this is what we're doing, what do you need, and how could we make.
Well, we're continually doing that. In fact, we work with the Montana High Tech Business Alliance. We're always asking employers, how can we improve our offerings? What can we do to adapt? We work with technology companies here in town, whether that's Submittable or ClassPass. We work with all sorts of employers, and one of them in particular that we've worked with recently is a company called ATG, Advanced Technology Group, started right here in Missoula. Fantastic office, they've employed more than 100 Grizzlies. In fact, we had a celebration when they hired their 100th Grizzly last year. Got acquired by a Fortune 200 company called Cognizant, and said to us, hey, we really want to grow here in Missoula. Can we work together with you to build a collaborative program to retrain people and get them ready for jobs here at ATG? And we did that, created a 12-week course together with our business school and ATG, and have graduated 2 cohorts, over 50 people, taking them from jobs where they maybe weren't as fulfilling what they wanted to do. We had some bartenders, some CrossFit instructors, some former engineering graduates that said, what, I want to reskill. So put them through this program, and now they're all in. Every single one of them had an opportunity to go and work in a great paying job here in Missoula.
And one thing I would add to Seth's point is that there are very few jobs today anymore that aren't technology jobs in one way or the other. And Seth points to the companies that would call themselves technology companies. But what we find from our very wide range of customers is that companies that people don't think of as being technology companies, like hospitals or universities or the oil and gas industry, whatever type of industry you're talking about, technology is a part of their business. And if technology is a part of their business, today that means the cloud. And so one of the things we're working with the University of Montana to think about is take any 4-year degree that the university is offering. Are there ways that we can, quote unquote, cloudify that degree? And you might be a business major, but maybe you take a class or two about the cloud so that you have that exposure to cloud technology as a part of your broader education in a different area. And we think there's all sorts of creative ways to cloudify the education that people are getting in all sorts of different areas. And it goes to the point that Seth made, that the people who are going to be most successful in the economy today are the ones who are nimble and who have the ability to problem solve and to take something they've learned in one place and learn something new and apply it then a few years later in a different way, maybe a way that they hadn't thought of. As a amateur historian, I love that idea of nimbleness, because I think it's very much a part of our character here in the West. We're a part of the country that has changed and innovated constantly in our relatively short history. That's a part of who we are. And you can point to lots of Western heroes who have gone from one career to the next and been very nimble and able to do that.
Yeah, and I think I would wholeheartedly agree. And I think that's something that we're always working with our students on, is how do we give you some of those tangible skills to succeed in that first job? So cloudifying various parts of the curriculum. You take, a lot of people say to me, well, what do you do with a philosophy degree as an undergrad? They say, oh, I worry I can't get a job with it. Frankly, you look at mid-career earnings of somebody with just an undergraduate degree in philosophy, it's in the mid 80,000s. They actually do pretty darn well. But that's not necessarily because they're all philosophers writing books. It's because we've honed in them those skills of thinking, of communicating, and then they've picked up other skills along the way. And so that's one of the things we try to tell our students is, pick a major where, again, yeah, you can get a job. We're going to help you get that first job. We're going to give you internships. We're going to do those things. But you better be always learning. You better be ready to adapt. I look at my own career. I was the president of a software business with almost $500 million of revenue, and my graduate degrees are in history and social policy. And but you can pick up some of these skills through programs like we're doing with AWS, through programs like we're doing with ATG. Some of those skills are important. You can learn those in different ways, but that critical thinking, that ability to communicate, and that continual curiosity. And that's, I had a student ask me in a high school a week ago. They said, what do you look for? What do you think those two skills, what do you think is most important for students today? And I said, I think it's obviously hard work is the foundation, but I think it's two C's. It's curiosity to continually learn, and courage to continually go out and stretch yourself and be ready and willing to adapt and take on new things.
And at Amazon, we have a set of leadership principles that are kind of the foundation of the way that the company thinks and makes decisions. One of the most important leadership principles is learn to be curious, to go to your point. Another one is bias for action, and which I think relates to courage in a lot of ways in terms of the ability to jump in and try something new. So I completely agree with the point you're making.
So this launched this week. What's the next step? When will the classes or the curriculum be available to people who want to start?
Well, we're finalizing the approval process, and we should have our new curriculum ready to go for students by January of 2020.
Oh, okay.
And frankly, we're just getting started here. We're looking for new ways we can partner together to serve our students, to serve companies across the state of Montana. This is something that we're really excited about. I want students and learners of all ages, frankly, when they think about how do I set myself for success over the course of my entire career, I want them to think about the University of Montana and the partners that we have and the programs that we're developing to help them do just that.
And schools, universities kind of need to do that these days. I mean, really answer the call to the workforce as things change. You said, a philosophy major, a history major, those are great, but then this is more value added for these people to maintain the nimbleness of mind and their ability to switch. And so the future for this is, who knows?
Well, I think like I said, we're just getting started. We've done some great work on it already with AWS, with companies like ATG. I talked about some of the new programs we're developing within our computer science curriculum in the fields of data science, in terms of interactive media, game design, and we're having some great conversations with, again, employers here in Missoula and frankly around the state to talk through what's next. What are the ways that we need to partner? Because I think as Michael so aptly stated, it's not just important for individuals to be nimble, but for institutions to be nimble. And oftentimes when we talk about a program like we've talked about with AWS or with ATG, you'd say, well, let's talk about this program, and 2 or 3 years later you might have something. But we can't have a 2-year wait period. With ATG it was 2 months and we got a cohort up and going. With AWS, it's in the span of a couple of months that we're ready to go, and that's the speed at which Amazon moves all the time. It hasn't been necessarily the speed at which institutions of higher education always move, and we want to be sensitive to moving and proceeding deliberately, but we know we need to adapt to best serve our students.
That is wonderful. And it sounds like an exciting initiative. This was a great Face the State because you guys did all the talking, and it was really wonderful and informative. And good luck with Tech Skills for the Future. I know that a lot of people I know will probably be exploring that option as we continue to face a whole new world out there of tech jobs, and the future is everywhere. We have Seth Bodner who joined us today, and Michael Punk. Thank you so much for joining us on Face the State. You can also watch this online later on at your local news website. Have a good Sunday.